The Classic Touring Car Racing Club weekend is sponsored by Autoglim.
Welcome to this special programme on classic touring car racing from Snennerton. There's a massive range of cars racing this weekend, from Lotus Cortinas, Minis and Ford Anglers, right through to Ford Sierra Cosworths and Nissan Skylines. So I'm here with Tony Palmer, who's the chairman of the Classic Touring Car Racing Club. We're just going to have a quick chat about how people can get involved if they want to start racing and about the club itself. So Tony, you mentioned the club's been going since 1974, so over 40 years now of history.
Yeah, a lot of history, just started by a group of amateurs back in the mid-70s, wanted to bring out their cars. In fact, I wasn't there, but I'm told that on that first grid there was a Bentley, a Mark 7 Jag and some really lovely old stuff from the 50s, you know, Rovers, that type of thing. And the club has evolved from there. Every few years we introduce another championship from slightly more modern cars, and so now we're running 8 championships at the moment.
Now, someone's sitting at home right now, they want to get involved, what do they do?
Well, we have a website obviously, and we have Facebook and Twitter links too, but if you look at the website, which is www.classictouringcars.com, you'll see everything you need to know, all the championship regulations. They are championships that we run, so we do have very stable regulations. They are relatively strict and we do police them, so the cars will be racing against evenly matched cars. We have success ballast, which keeps the front runners back with the field to a certain extent. But the website is the place to go, really, and you can find out about joining the club. It's relatively cheap, and there's going to be lots of people on there that will come and help, and we'll talk to you about it, what you need to do, explain the rules and regs for the different series. We've got the pre-2003s, the VTEC Direct Challenge, which is for cars just 2 litres, normally aspirated, but that's bringing in a lot of younger drivers now, coming in Hondas and Fords. We come right through to the present day with the Thunder Championship, which is for all the cars that don't qualify for our other series. They're just too modified. So we do have things like Andy Robinson's Falcon, and we have Skylines, Subarus. Then we've also got a One Make Challenge, which is a Volkswagen Classic Challenge, CVT Travel Challenge, which has done really well this year.
So Darren, your 1990 Skyline is pretty pumped up. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's pretty much a standard 2.6 engine. Pistons and rods are kind of forged. Yeah, it's pretty much got a nice little size turbo on it, GT35.
And the car was, the intention initially was to go to time attack, but things didn't quite turn out, or you went a different route, and you found the Classic Touring Car Championship, and you've got some really, really good cars to race with, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, time attack's is good, and it don't get me wrong, but it's evolved over the years, hasn't it? From, you know, tuners and drivers and stuff, and someone who's more of an amateur like myself kind of find it difficult to compete, don't you, really? So I think that's mainly the reason why you kind of step away from it and try and go racing. And yeah, Thunder Saloon's the perfect place to go.
So Andy, you've got an Aussie V8 for yourself, and you're out in the Classic Touring Car Championship. You say not many people want you.
Yeah, well, a car like this, there's not many rules that it fits into, but it fits perfectly into this Thunder Championship.
And although it is a monster and it is really, really quick, you've still got some quite strong competition in the championship.
Well, I'm looking at one now that's probably quicker in a straight line than mine, but yeah, there's different cars come and go. You know, I don't have it easy. I've won a few races, but I've also been, you know, I've been beat a few times as well, so I haven't got it all my way, not at all.
Now, there's a great range of cars in this series. Why the Mini Cooper?
I've just been always into minis. Used to race rallycross minis, classics, and then went on to build this one for British Rallycross.
And a good championship to race in?
Fantastic championship. The guys are absolutely brilliant. It's good, clean, fun racing. Yeah, and very, very fast.
Now you've got your Honda Civic that you've built with your family-run team. It's looking pretty well prepared. How's it all going?
Yeah, it's going really well actually. For our first season in the car, it's been a lot of hours put into it. First season we've had a few wins, yeah, and we're sort of competitive. Bit of a shock really, I wasn't expected to be that competitive.
Tell someone that may be watching this that wonders if their car's eligible, what kind of stats do they need in their car?
Basically, it's up to 2 litres, normally aspirated, pretty much do what you like. Pre-2003, so it's from I think you can run from 94 to 2003. This is a 2002 car, but yeah, it's 2 litres, normally aspirated. Pretty much do what you want. The rules are fairly open.
The Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloons, the pre-2003 Production Touring Car Championship and the pre-2003 Volkswagens. Dale Gent is on pole in the Impreza, then Andy Robinson in the Falcon, Vaughan Fletcher and Ian Frog at row 2, followed by Richard Evans and Bradley Gelman. Then it's Darren Bly and Stuart Day. Pole position for the Volkswagens goes to Ken Lark. Then it's Luke Allen and Ross Craig, Andy Smith in the Honda Accord, Marcus Reynolds and Dawn Boyd next from Neil Wade and Vic Hope in 16th position. 17th goes to Alexander Owen and he's followed by Steve Barden. Then we've got Chris Adams and Gareth Broadbent, Ian Fowler in the Golf Mark 3, Santa Ibiza of Gary Johnson, then Tim Mole and Neville Moore, 24th on the grid. 25th goes to Nick Sanderson in his Seat. Then it's Alan O'Gorman, Stephen Wood in 377. Alan O'Gorman sharing driving duties this weekend with Ian. We'll see him out in race number 2. But the lights are on for our rolling start here at Snetterton Circuit, the black Subaru Impreza of Dale Gent. And here's Steve Wood, front runner in the VWs, eating up the traffic. Great start by Andy Robinson, who went around the outside of Riches and I think has got clear of Dale Gent in this opening stage. 199 is Ross Craig. And we go in car with Ross momentarily. They're going through the hairpin for the first time. The outside line there for Ian Frogat in his Subaru Impreza, side by side with Darren Bly. We heard from him in the Nissan Skyline. But Andy Robinson is the leader. Here comes Dale Gent though, having a look down the inside into Agostini. This is lap 1 and Dale's getting stuck in straight away. Set the pole position time, 2 minutes 1.857 around the 3 miles. Got Vaughan Fletcher in 3rd position. So it looks like a good start by all concerned. As we look at Darren Bly in the Nissan Skyline, here's Steve Barden in the pre-2003 category Civic, largely Hondas, the pre-2003 class. Got the Ford Fiesta of Gareth Broadbent in there as well, adding a little bit of variety. And this is the view from Neil Wade in the Mini Cooper. Man, we heard from Class A2, 2.3 litre Cooper, getting stuck in. He's Neil in the Classic Thunder class. Got Ken Lark, the pole position man in the VWs, the VW Corrado. Is in front of this gaggle as well. Ken is hoping to fend off Stephen Wood, who, as we saw from the grid, started right at the back of the field. Meanwhile, Vaughan Fletcher powers away from Darren Bly and along Centre Straight. A little bit of a climb in the first part, and then it goes very slightly downhill into Riches, but it's Dale Gent still the leader from Andy Robinson. Vaughan Fletcher in 3rd. Darren Bly, the man who's made progress from the grid position up into 4th place from 7th on the grid, as we would expect the Classic Thunder runners. The flash of yellow through shot was Stephen Wood, who's running well. We've got Marcus Reynolds there in the 737 and all sorts of dicing going on, and I think Marcus passed by Steve Barden, who's going right the way around the outside of several of these guys. Stephen Barden qualified 6th in class, 18th on the grid in the 191 car, and still out front, Dale Gent. Dale's 2nd generation racing. I remember watching his dad Mark race back in the day. And here's Stephen Barden again, getting stuck in. Coming up to Agostini, very well inside the infield section of this 2.9 miles, just under 3 miles. The circuit here, coming up into Hamilton, left-hander, and then we've got the right-handers that will bring them onto the very long, very fast Bentley Straight. Used to be known as the Rivette Straight here. So Vaughan Fletcher up ahead of Darren Bly. Bly closing in at the moment. They're coming down into Coram, and Bly, I think, is going to have a look at Fletcher on the inside line. The Skyline goes through makes the pass. There was room there to do it. You can see out front the Ford Falcon of Andy Robinson still ahead of these guys. So Darren Bly has made some very good ground here, obviously happier in race pace. Here's Vic Hope in the number 5 Honda Civic Type R being challenged by Alexander Owen. Vic running in Class A, Alex in Class B, and behind them the 191 car of Steve Barden. So Steve trying to close in on these boys having their own scrap as well. Vic Hope at the moment holds on to it, coming into Murray's, which is the last corner of the lap. See a fair few people have chosen to park themselves in the grandstands to watch the first day's racing. A good crowd here for day one of the meeting. We've had qualifying as well today, but the main race actually is on day 2. We're expecting an even bigger crowd tomorrow. It's a big circuit for everyone to watch the racing. Well, there is Stephen Wood being chased by the Mini of Neil Wade. So Stephen Wood's made some very good progress through the field, and here's the view from Neil again, coming up into Hamilton Corner. Turns in nice and neat, uses just about the right amount of curb. And back to the front runners. Darren Bly goes through, and Darren Bly is past the Ford Falcon V8 supercar, the sort of car that you'll see racing out in the Aussie V8 series. Meanwhile, Vic Hope has been passed by one car, but still getting stuck in his Class A car, the Barwell Garage entered machine, a man from Surrey. And here's Steve Barden. He's going to try and tee up Vic at the moment. Vic was on the inside line, moves to the outside racing line. That leaves the door open for Steve Barden to go through. Good move, passes, changes down at the same time, and makes it through. He'll now try and catch up with 1, 2, 3 Alexander Owen. Meanwhile, Bradley Gelman here in the 82, working hard to try and make up ground. Qualified in 6th position, and we'll join the guys after the break. Welcome back to Snetterton, and we're watching the Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloons, the pre-2003 production touring cars and the pre-2003 Volkswagens, and looking at Ian Froggatt coming under pressure here from Bradley Gelman. Bradley looking on the inside line, and is he going to be able to do it as they go down into Riches? Well, the answer is no. Froggatt holds on to position at the moment. I can tell you Andy Robinson's leading. We've lost Dale Gent, and it looks like we're about to lose Darren Bly as well. Smoke coming out of that car. Tim Mole has a little moment off on the grass as well. We're into the closing stages of this race. As you can see, the waved yellow flags out there. Puff of smoke from Darren Bly. Through goes Bradley Gelman. So Gelman now ahead of Ian Froggatt, and looks around the outside line here as they work their way back towards the Bentley Straight. Still got the Honda battle going on. Steve Barden is the chaser. Alexander Owen in 1, 2, 3, and a good move there by Steve Barden, who gets the move done. You can see there the very slight undulation of the centre straight. Now we're on to the last lap. Andy Robinson, well, in some respects gifted this, but he is still running in that wonderful V8 Ford Falcon, and he's going to take the win. Vaughan Fletcher is in close proximity. They're going to be 1 and 2 in the Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloons. Bradley Gelman we saw in the Sierra. He's running in 3rd place at the moment, ahead of Stuart Day in the Ford Escort WRC. So it's a trio of Fords and 1 Subaru in the top 4. There is Ian Froggatt, and Stuart Day about to pass him. And late retirement there. It's Andy Smith, isn't it, in the Honda Accord, who goes out. But meanwhile, the race leaders coming into Nelson for the last time, through into the bomb hole. Dale Gent got the fastest lap of the race. Oh, big sideways moment there, and off goes Nick Sanderson in 3.73. So Nick's going to should be able to recover from that, I think. But here comes the V8. We'll just listen to it power its way out of Murray's. And up across the line to take the first win of the weekend here at Snetterton. Andy Robinson takes the win. Vaughan Fletcher close by in 2nd place. Bradley Gelman is 3rd. And then Stuart Day 4th from Ian Froggatt. Then it was Marcus Reynolds and Neil Wade in 7th. In the mini, non-finishes sadly for Darren Bly and Dale Gent. The pre-2003s won by Luke Allen. Ross Craig 2nd from Steve Barden, and then Alex Owen and Vic Hope. Dawn Boyd in 6th from Alan O'Gorman. Non-finishes we saw towards the end there for Andy Smith. And the VWs won by Steve Wood from the back of the grid. Ken Lark next up from Ian Fowler, Tim Mole in 4th, then Neville Moore, Nick Sanderson in 6th place ahead of Gary Johnson. Celebrations for Andy Robinson here, and we caught up with him in Victory Lane.
Andy, that's another race win this year, but it wasn't as easy as it looked, was it?
No, I didn't think that was going to be a race win. I was gifted that one. But the old cliche is you have to be in it to win it. I was following the skyline then, as you can see, there was oil coming out the skyline, and I was thinking, I just, he ain't going to finish. Then I couldn't believe me. Well, Dale's bad misfortune was my good fortune. I just seen the Black Subaru slow up both cars on one lap.
Steve, race winner in the VW Championship. I bet you're happy with that?
Yeah, really pleased. It was going to be a struggle. We started at the back of the grid because we had a problem this morning with a throttle cable that broke. We knew we had the pace in the car, but I had to get up to Ken early because Ken's car sort of a little bit stronger than ours towards the end. And I managed to get the move done, and he kept me honest towards the end. I was a bit concerned actually at one point.
Luke spoke to you a little bit earlier on, and we've seen each other again, but this time you're a race winner.
Yeah, it feels good. Yeah, it's nice to see you again, actually. So, yeah, thank you.
And the other Civics were really having a good go. I mean, you couldn't really see that from where you are. You were too far gone, weren't you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a lonely race, actually. I got away at the start and managed to get ahead of Ken in the Corrado. He's in the Volkswagen Championship. But, yeah, I sat in front of him, let him go and let another Volkswagen guy go. And, yeah, I didn't really see much of anyone else. So it was a bit of a lonely race, just putting qualifying laps in and to keep my head down and trying to keep concentration.
Bradley, a 3rd place. I mean, it didn't look like you knew that was coming when you got out of the car.
I had absolutely no idea whatsoever. The thing is, you're out there, you get a bit caught up in everything that's going on. You're trying to concentrate on where you're going, what's happening with the car. Next thing you know, you don't know where you are on the track. So, yeah, I really didn't have a clue, but well chuffed.
For an interesting race, tell us how you found it from your point of view.
Well, the start were quite good. We was all having a battle. I got close to Andy Robinson, and I was keeping my eye on Darren in the mirrors, and I seemed to have got the edge on him for quite a few laps, and then coming round Coram, he just got more corner speed than me, and once he got past me, he were up to Andy Robinson, and then he'd gone.
So we have the pre-66s, which is supported by Thermex. Then we have the Group 1s, pre-83s, which is sponsored by Autoglim. You'll be seeing all sorts of cars that probably many of the viewers will have noted or will have been in with their parents. Back to the 66s, your Lotus Cortinas, Minis, Jaguars, that type of thing. Group 1s, you'll be seeing Mark 1 Escorts, Capris, the big Jaguars, those types of cars.
A lot of people will remember these cars racing in the 60s and bring back a lot of memories. Is that why you got into racing the Mini yourself?
No, started racing the Mini in 77, something like that. And so I've just sort of gone full circle through various types of championships and cars, and ended up back with the Minis.
So Andrew, you've owned your BMW for about 5 years now, and you're letting your son Michael race it. Is it nerve-wracking times?
No, it does well. He's a lot faster than I am. He's had probably less off. Well, no, maybe not that. Maybe not as many as I've had a few. He had a few more than me. But yeah, no, he's done very well. Yeah, so for me, I'm quite confident with him driving it. Yeah.
Now, Michael, you said that karting was a similar cost, but I mean, there's a massive difference between karting and touring car racing. I think I know which one's better.
Yeah, touring car racing all the day, because it's great out there. Usually we have a sort of big grid of cars. There's a lot of competition. I mean, some of the guys are sort of a bit older than me, and people think, well, you're racing against a load of old blokes, but it's the experience in this touring cars.
Evian, you've been racing a long time, but quite new to circuit racing, and does it get any more historic than a Lotus Cortina?
Well, it doesn't. All my life, I think, I've been wanting to race one of these since Jim Clark days and all the rest of it, and eventually I've managed it in my later life.
And the Classic Touring Car Championship is a great balance between keeping it sensible with regulations and not going too over the top.
This actual car is built to Appendix K specifications, so can race in Europe if you like. We can only modify what was modified in period, what was homologated. I think this club allows a little bit more mods than Appendix K, but I've kept this one to Appendix K spec.
The Thermex pre-1966 classics and the Autoglim pre-1983s. David Howard on pole with Stephen Primmett alongside then Andrew Harrison and Mark Osborne. Mark Fowler in the Ford Capri on 5th place on the grid, followed by Pete Winston. William Jenkins and Reardon Welby in 8th place. 9th on the grid is David Hall. Then Stuart Kai, followed by Tony Crudgington in the Dolomite, John Wright in the Escort, Al Wayman in the Chevrolet Camaro, Alan Greenhalgh in the Forenza. Pole position for the pre-1966s goes to Andy Messam. Andrew Sheraton next, then Simon Jeffs. Effian Jones from Stephen Watson and Richard Leggett. Tony Preston in the Minor, Malcolm Jeffs in the Alfa Sud, then Gary Fletcher in the Hillman Imp. Paul Cooper, who is Ford Cortina mounted, 24th on the grid, followed by Tim Dodwell and Keith Peter Wright in the Minor. Anthony Warnes in the Wolseley, Stuart Radford and Steve Barber completing a splendid grid. So it's David Howard and Stephen Primmett on the front row of the grid. Andrew Harrison in the XJS. Stuart Kai's on board. Goodness me! They say if you aren't rubbing, you aren't racing, and they were certainly getting stuck in. Pete Winston round the outside in the ESP Escort up into 3rd place. A terrific start by Pete. Stuart Kai's on board, looking ahead at Alan Greenhalgh in the pre-83 Vauxhall Forenza. Alan comes from New Malden in Surrey. Reardon Welby in the Rover SD1, and Pete Winston goes second. Great move by Winston, the multi-champion in several disciplines of racing. Remember watching him back in the day. He'll wince now because I'll talk about when I saw him win the European Hot Rod Championship on the short ovals in a Mark 1 Escort. Always immaculately prepared cars and always very well driven indeed. Raced in the Super Rods too. The Forenza's having a moment. We're looking at Andy Messam, who was in front there in the number 5 Austin Mini 7, another Essex-based racer, comes from Romford. There is William Jenkins chasing John Wright, the Boston driver, in the red and gold Escort. But out front, David Howard from Pete Winston. What a great start from Winston, from 6th on the grid, and has done his passing, and in fact now down into 3rd place, because coming through is Andy Harrison 2nd. So it's David Howard, Jaguar 1-2, Ford Escorts 3 and 4, followed by Mark Osborne in the Triumph Dolomite Sprint. Now we're going to see Stephen Primmett put a move here on Pete Winston. Here's the view from Andrew Harrison trying to go up the inside. The XJS versus XJ12. Absolutely glorious shot here. Look at the wide line. Winston's back through. Very opportune by Peter Winston, back into 2nd place. The Dolomite is going to pass Stephen Primmett. Wonderful racing from the pre-83s and indeed, of course, the pre-1966 cars, who are a little bit further back. Winston loses out, as you would expect, against the Jaguar down the straight. The Dolomite's come through ahead of Pete Winston as well. So it's the XJS in 2nd, Dolomite in 3rd. Pete Winston still the leading Escort at the moment, up ahead of Stephen Primmett, who qualified on the front row of the grid. Meanwhile, the pre-66s, Andy Messam is there, and there's Tony Preston in the Minor. More after the break. Welcome back to Snetterton. Great dice going on here between Keith Peter Wright and Anthony Warnes. Warnes in the Wolseley 1500. Meanwhile, Pete Winston involved in battle here with the Rover of Reardon Welby, who looks up the inside line and goes through. So Pete losing a place very quick off the start. Is Pete going to return the compliment going back into Coram? Well, we won't know that for the moment as we look at Mark Osborne and Steve Primmett, who's got ahead of Winston now and leads the battle of the Mark 1 Ford Escorts. XJS of Andrew Harrison running in 2nd place. Across the line they go. There is David Howard in the Jaguar XJ12. some of the runners starting to get into some back marker traffic. Al Wayman in the Camaro. What a handful this wonderful car is. Wayman running well and entertaining us. The man from Watford, 5.7 litres. Pretty sure the biggest car in the race, engine-wise. And look at that, gobbles up the Morris Minor down the straight. Changes down, ready for Rich's the first corner. That was Tony Preston who went past. Tony, one of the front runners in the pre-1966 class. Problems there briefly we saw for Keith Peter Wright, sadly. And through on the inside goes Stuart Radford in the 2-litre Triumph. Let's hope that Keith Peter Wright can get the Morris Minor fired up and going once again in the race. There, though, is the man who qualified on pole position in the pre-1966 class, Andy Messam, up ahead of Effian Jones. Heard from both of those in the interviews with Jack before the race. But Andrew Harrison having a very good go at David Howard, but getting all crossed up. And the Triumph Dolly goes through. And also going through as well was Stephen Primmett. A good recovery from the XJS of Andrew Harrison. These cars are a real handful around here. But as you can see, Effian Jones in the Ford Mark 1 Lotus Cortina, the sort of cars that you'd have seen racing in the days when Jim Clark raced in the Touring Car Championship. Al Wayman gobbles up the Mini. Those guys actually dicing just outside the top 10 overall. So Al Wayman is in 12th place. Tony Preston is in 13th. Alan Wayman in the mix as well. Here's Andrew Harrison coming through the bomb hole, still chasing Steve Primmett. Primmett after the Triumph Dolomite sprint of Mark Osborne at the moment. And this just goes to show you how very dogged you have to be. The Dolomite is up and challenging the Jaguar and goes through, but he's on the outside line at Murray's and goes through into the lead. What a superb move by Mark Osborne in the 49 car. The man from Bilth Wells goes through, takes the lead. David Howard down into second position. Meanwhile, Stephen Primmett's trying to get on terms as well, but the cat stretches its legs and takes the lead again, going down into Riches along the main straight. So Mark Osborne running in Class C still here. Here's Andrew Harrison, goes for the big burn up round the outside, and the XJS catches up with the XJ12, ends up running very wide indeed. The Dolomite's back through on the inside into this wonderful infield section. Bit of smoke, telltale smoke maybe, from the Dolomite out front. Meanwhile, Peter Winston's coming through. That's Paul Cooper in the Ford Cortina who is passed. William Jenkins in the BMW is up and challenging Peter as well. That doesn't look healthy at all, sadly, from the Dolomite sprint. Stephen Primmett's got a smoke screen to deal with in the Mark 1 Ford Escort. Now I'm wondering whether that car will get called in for diagnostics into the pits. You can see very unhealthy indeed. So David Howard still out front. The Triumph Dolomite is next up. Let's have a look back and see if we can see Andrew Harrison in the mix anywhere. David Howard, though, has done superbly here, and he'll be maybe a little bit worried to allow the Dolly through. This is where we saw the Dolomite pull the move on the exit of Coram and on the outside line into Murray's a couple of laps ago. This time has the inside line and makes the pass again for the lead, but has a problem there. Here comes Stephen Primmett, who looks to the outside line. Past Keith Peter Wright's abandoned Morris Minor on the exit of Murray's, but David Howard recovers again. Stephen Primmett is there as well. We go back to John Wright and Mark Fowler in the 51 Ford Capri. So Fowler trying to get on terms with the Boston-based driver in the red and gold car, heading into the closing stages of this one. Fowler running second in the pre-83 Class Bs, and John Wright running third in the Class Cs at the moment. As we go back, Effian Jones still leads the pre-1966 runners. Tony Preston is in second place in the minor. Andy Messam down in third. There we go, the top three of the pre-1966 Thermex sponsored historics all pretty much together in shot. And Tony Preston's having a good go here at Effian Jones. What a marvellous race between the pair of them. The minor running superbly. Now let's see whether Effian Jones can hold on. They've got one more lap to do, so they'll start their last lap as they cross the line. Tony Preston's actually had a better lap than Effian Jones, so closing in. But meanwhile, David Howard still leads the race. Steve Primmett has come through into second place. I can tell you that the Triumph Dolomite Sprint is still running, but William Jenkins has gone past as well now. So it's Howard from Primmett, Andrew Harrison in third place, William Jenkins is fourth from Mark Osborne, then Peter Winston in sixth place. Primmett closing up, he's going to have a last-ditch attempt around the outside at Murray's, but surely the Jaguar will kick in. Now look at the power. The Jaguar powers away. David Howard will take the first win of the weekend in the Autoglym Pre-83 Classic Touring Car Series from Stephen Primmett in second place. Andrew Harrison will take third. Some marvellous machinery, some terrific driving as well, and confirmation. Howard from Primmett, Andrew Harrison next from William Jenkins and Mark Osborne, Peter Winston sixth from Reardon Welby, John Wright in eighth position ahead of Mark Fowler, and Tony Crudgington in the Dolomite next, then Al Wayman and Malcolm Jeffs. Stuart Kye is next from Stephen Watson, Richard Leggett and Tim Dodwell completing the finishers for the pre-93s. And as we move on to the pre-1966 cars, a win for Effian Jones in the Lotus Cortina from Tony Preston, Andy Messam third from Gary Fletcher, then Anthony Warnes, Stuart Radford and Paul Cooper in seventh place. Non-finishers we saw for Keith Peter Wright, but the outright win today for David Howard.
David, that's number 101. I bet you're happy.
It is number 101. Funny enough, I am very happy actually, because I'd sort of stalled after getting 100 at Brands Hatch. And in fact, this is actually the site of my first ever race win in 2001. Coming out side by side with a guy called Pete Holford in a Mustang. And we came around Russell, as it was then, together. The line, and I just powered him to the checkered flag, and that's my first ever win was here. So one. So maybe 201 will be here as well, I don't know.
That looked rather glorious in the British summertime sunshine. Lotus Cortina. Doesn't get much better, does it?
No, not indeed. The car did me proud. Faultless, ran faultlessly. Having a bit of pressure from the other two, I was keeping an eye on them, but it was a good little double.
But Tony, you were pushing him all the way to the end. I mean, that was a great race.
Yeah, it was great fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Just haven't quite got the power to match him on the straights, unfortunately. So, yeah, short of knocking him off on the last corner, I wasn't going to get a win. But it was great. Really good fun, yeah.
Andy, the coil problems seem to have disappeared then?
Yep, it's running a little bit warm, so I've got an idea what that is. So it's, no point killing it on the first race, but it was going well for a few laps, and then it just started to get warm, and I thought, just sort of ease off a little bit.
It's good to see two Jags in the top three.
Well, obviously it would have been better with this particular Jag in P1, but you can't have everything. We had a problem with the brakes halfway through the race. The pedal just went to the deck, and this isn't a place to not have any brake set. So we gave it a cool down and then set off again. Unfortunately, of course, Mark was having problems. Mark Osborne in the Dolomite was driving a blinding race, but he obviously turned into a refinery at the end there.
So Steve, Jaguar, Escort, Triumph, I don't know, what was it going to be?
I had no idea. I was just overdriving so much that I just couldn't hang on to him for a little while. Then it came back to me, then it changed places. It was pretty wild.
The 93 Sierra Cosworths, BMW M3, starting to get a bit more familiar now. Pre-2005, which is a production car series, that's really the budget end where you can get in, and seriously, you'll probably see later in the race, if you're going to race in a Renault Clio or a Ford Puma, you can be on the grid for less than £2,000. And the Burton supported Ford Saloon series in there as well. So there is really something for everybody.
So motorsport is always going to be expensive to a certain degree, but you can control the costs. Now tell us a little bit about how you did that and the choice of car you made.
Well, the club run the pre-2005 class, which is basically a non-modified class, but it's open to all sorts of cars, anything up to 2 litres, running in 3 classes, with the division being done on horsepower as the car was produced by the manufacturer. Therefore, anything up to 2 litres can run, non-turbo. Lots of ex-race cars are eligible, and that's where this came from. This is a former Alpha challenge car. I bought it very cheap because the chap hadn't raced for several years. There's a lot of cars in the country which are eligible for this series, which would get a lot of people started.
So Malcolm, you've been with the Classic Touring Car Championship for a long time, and you've come back for another year. How are you finding it?
Not too bad. We're actually, I think, in second place overall at the moment. I think, in fairness, that's due to the fact there's not been quite so many entries this year. But even so, you've got to finish, and so far we're managing to finish most of our races, in fact all of them so far.
You're racing the car that first got you into motorsport, and you're chasing the white car of Nigel Hutton. So it's a tight battle, is it?
It is a tight battle. Nigel actually looks after my car here at the circuit as well. This is the first time he's actually beaten me in qualifying, so I'm looking to reverse that in the race, obviously. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good battle. I can see that coming up, because I'm not going to be content to stay in 7th, I can assure you of that.
Pre-93 touring cars, pre-2005 production touring cars, and the Blue Oval Series, which provides pole position man Ollie Allen and fellow front row runner Ashley Shelswell. Nigel Hutton is next from Simon Ward, who is the pre-93 pole man, then John Edwards-Parton, Andrew Sheraton, Malcolm Wise and Kenny Coleman in the V8 Ford Capri. Gary Parks is next. He's the pre-2005 pole position man. Chris Baker alongside them, Paul Waterhouse and Brian Long. Alistair Rushforth in 13th. Kenneth Adlard next in the Alfa Romeo. Then Scott Parks, the first of two Pumas. Jeffrey Windsor in 16th place. 17th on the grid is Craig Langley. Then the second Puma, Damon Craig. Alan Willett is next with Mark Finney. Then Maximilian Futrell and Marcus Lambert. Andrew Anderson-Smith lines up 23rd, then Mark Hope, and the grid completed by Lindsay Hutton. Lights are on here, the sun's shining in the sky, the lights go off and the track will light up to the tune of 25 cars in this race. Andrew Sheraton from 6th on the grid in the BMW has a pretty good getaway. But leading, it's Ashley Shelswell. Ollie Allen in second, the pole position man, has been beaten off the line, sets up the prospect of an intriguing race. We look at Gary Parks going through, Brian Long in the black Fiesta with the yellow trim on the outside line, Nigel Hutton in the white Sapphire Cosworth round the outside line of Malcolm Wise. Then it's Gary Parks side by side with Brian Long. It looks like Parks has got the run on the outside line through into Palmer Corner as we go in car. The Vauxhall Astra GTE 16 valve of Simon Ward. Clear circuit for Simon at the moment, qualified in 4th place, the pole position man, as I said, in the pre-93s. Now Capri v Sapphire there, Malcolm Wise in the red and yellow Sapphire, looking up the inside line of Kenny Coleman, but was too far back to do anything about that as they went into Hamilton. And now coming up into Oggies. Wise is going to have a look on the inside line, too far back, wants to make the move but wants to make it safely. Kenny Coleman running a little bit wide, and Malcolm Wise is going to slot through on the inside. Nice piece of overtaking. You very rarely see passes on that part of the track, but Wise and Coleman, a mature piece of racing between the two of them, respectful racing, and the Sapphire goes past the Capri, and obviously we've got plenty of time for them to fight it out over the rest of the race. Wise did in fact out-qualify Coleman, 7th position in the race. Kenny Coleman lining up in 8th as we look at the MG of Alistair Rushforth coming under pressure from Brian Long in the Ford Fiesta and heading out to Corham for the first time. Meanwhile, the race leader is Ashley Shelswell. Looks to me like Ollie Allen is starting to get on the case. Ollie's pole position time 9/10 of a second quicker than Shelswell, and the Fiesta and the Sierra are obviously going to have different handling characteristics. Here's the first of the Ford Pumas, the green car of Damon Craig, then the 45 Fiesta of Scott Parks, and in behind them the red Puma of Jeffrey Windsor. But there's a challenge on for the lead, and Ollie Allen looks up the inside at Agostini, keeps it tight, should take the move going into Hamilton, assuming Shelswell wasn't far enough ahead. This is the scrap between Paul Waterhouse and Chris Baker. Baker chasing hard in the Escort RS 1600i. And as we can see, Ollie Allen did get the move done, so Ashley Shelswell down to second place, lost a little bit of ground, 3 or 4 lengths down now on Ollie Allen, who seems to be making this count. They go into Coram. Great shot of Shelswell applying the brake lights here, and Allen starting to get away. A little bit of a wobbly moment there, and loses time, and I dare say perhaps a little bit of momentum, and we'll see what Shelswell can do about it as they go along the centre straight. And he's closing up, so there was a bit of momentum lost for Ollie Allen, and Shelswell's going to try and reclaim the lead. Looks to the inside line, very neatly done. Nice piece of racing between the two. But Ollie Allen, we know, can fight back, and he's coming onto the part of the circuit which worked for him on the previous lap where he took the lead. Meanwhile, back to the Baker and Whitehouse battle. Whitehouse looking up the inside. Peugeot versus Mark III Ford Escort, and the Peugeot 306 having a good look now from Peterborough. And down the straight, Brian Long still racing hard and getting in the mix as well, now chasing Paul Waterhouse. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead, and there's a sense of deja vu because going back into the lead is Ollie Allen. So Allen reclaims the lead from Ashley Shelswell and will be hoping not to have those problems that he had coming out of Murray's again, and try and build the lead. So pole position man back in lead position. Meanwhile, the Puma Fiesta battle still going on, and Scott Parks is the chaser, and the 299 Puma of Damon Craig holding on at the moment. The Parks running in the Blue Oval Series. There's the man that we were on board with at the start of the race. Andrew Sheraton in the BMW goes along the straight and chasing hard. Here's Marcus Lambert in the 206 chasing Andrew Anderson in the Honda CRX. And following them, the 211, the Proton Satcher, Maximilian Futrell. Good to see a very strong variety of cars in all of these races, and the Satcher running in the pre-2005 production touring car series. And let's just name check the various sponsors of the championship. It's got the SVG Motorsport Pre-93 Touring Car Championship, the Toyo Tyres Pre-2005 Production Touring Car Series, and the Blue Oval Saloon Series to give them their full titles. This is a good intriguing battle here between the two Pumas and the Fiesta, and now getting involved with Chris Baker as well. So Chris Baker dropping back from his battle with Paul Waterhouse earlier on. Here we go in car with Andrew Sheraton. Now, was he following the Fiesta? Did that cause him to go on the grass? It certainly unsettled the car. Hopefully he'll keep it out of the barrier, which he does. So it's a good job in terms of keeping it out of the barrier. He's on the grass, waits for the safe moment to rejoin the track, which he does. Meanwhile, Scott Parks is coming up the inside of Damon Craig, and getting into the mix as well is Jeffrey Windsor in the red Puma, who in fact looks around the outside. So Scott Parks has lost out there. Another car joining the battle as well, which is Craig Langley in the Peugeot. Craig running in the pre-2005s, Scott Parks running in the Blue Oval Series, and Jeffrey Windsor and Damon Craig running in the pre-2005 class as well. And this quartet of cars coming down into Agostini, and Langley down hard on the brakes, manages to pass Jeffrey Windsor. So a good move from Craig Langley. Those two cars in the same class, the Fiesta of Scott Parks running in the Blue Oval Series. So, but enjoying his race nonetheless, and that's the idea of combining the classes that we have in the championships that you have, where we can cope with large numbers as we have here at Snetterton this weekend. But back to the race leader, Ollie Allen is very, very clear indeed. Now is Andrew Anderson-Smith in the CRX, who I think is going to be passed. And laps, as we go back to our quartet, still involved in action, and it's Damon Craig at the moment running 14th on the last lap, with Scott Parks behind him. A very good battle between Craig Langley and Jeffrey Windsor, which Windsor sorts out once again. Windsor and Damon Craig will be dicing, I think, for the lead in their class, in Class C of the 2005 production touring cars, but at the moment it's Damon Craig who holds sway there. Scott Parks is leading his class within the Blue Oval Series, which at the moment is led by Ollie Allen. We've got Simon Ward leading the pre-93 race overall, and the 05s is led by Gary Parks. But we're on to the last lap. Ollie Allen is well on his way around the last lap. I think these guys here will go the full distance, and here is Ollie Allen, as we said, some way around the final lap. He's already out of Murray's, and we'll see the checkered flag. He's 10 seconds to the good over Ashley Shelswell. So Ollie Allen takes the win from Ashley Shelswell. John Edwards Parton in second from Kenny Coleman, then Nigel Hutton and Brian Long. Scott Parks in 7th place, ahead of Alan Willett and Lindsay Hutton. Non-finish for Chris Baker. Sadly, onto the pre-2005s won by Gary Parks, then Alistair Rushforth from Paul Waterhouse. Kenneth Adlard in 4th from Jeffrey Windsor. Got the better of Damon Craig and Craig Langley. Maximilian Futrell in 8th from Marcus Lambert. Simon Ward wins the pre-93s from Malcolm Wise, then Andrew Sheraton and Mark Finney. Mark Hope next from Andrew Anderson-Smith. Let's go down to Jack, who's talking to Oliver Allen.
Ollie, that was quite a race. I mean, you pulled a gap at the end, but you're having a great battle midway through, weren't you?
Yeah, Ash. Me and Ash can race quite close together. I trust him. He's hit me once before at Mallory, beginning of the year. Put a big dent in me door, but I did say before I went out, please don't hit me this time.
Ash, a really, really close race with Ollie at the start. You were swapping positions lap by lap.
It was a brilliant race, yeah. I really enjoyed the start of it. It was mega quick round Coram. Couldn't hold him round there. I think a couple of times, I can't remember, is it Agostini, is it, round the back? I got sideways a bit there, and that's when he caught me up and he got past me.
So Simon, the leader's pulled a bit of a gap on you, but you can still see him, and it was a great race from where you were.
Yeah, it was a bit of a lonely race, mate, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously I won our sort of championship. We were first in class. They're good quick cars, but I could see them for a good 5 or 6 laps, and then they were gone in the distance, but yeah, it was good.
Gary, a race win in the 05s. It was a bit lonely at the end, but tell us about the start.
Start was very frantic. There was a couple of the other class guys that were battling away and got by the side of me and one in front of me, and I know I had to make a break away from them so I could secure the 05.
That's the end of day 1 from here at Snetterton. Join us for day 2 after the break.
So Mark, the Classic Touring Car Racing Series is sponsored by Autoglim. It's great to see all the cars so well prepared. I mean, I suppose they're using all of your products, aren't they?
Well, hopefully it's, as you say, the cars are all looking immaculate, all gleaming and shiny. So yeah, seen a fair bit of Autoglim out on the pits, so the best ones will certainly be prepared with ours.
And I know that Autoglim has input from everything from touring cars right down to club racing. Now, it's great to see a big company getting involved with the grassroots as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all real keen petrol heads at Autoglim, and we support a lot of racing series, as you say, so it's fantastic. I mean, it's absolutely heaving here today. Lots and lots of people out supporting grassroots motorsport, and something we're very, very proud to be a part of.
So Bradley, part of the Classic Touring Car Racing Series is how diverse the cars are. You've got a Ford Sierra Cosworth. Can you tell the viewers that might not know much about this car, you know, what kind of engine you've got, what tyres you have to run on to be part of the championship?
Okay, well, it's a fairly standard sort of setup in terms of track car. I mean, it's pretty much a fast road track car in terms of the engine spec. The suspension's obviously like race spec. The tyres we run on are slicks to be part of the Thunder Saloons. Yeah, I mean, I do Thunder Saloons. It's great because, like you said, the diversity of car. I mean, you've got fantastic machinery, anything from Andy Robinson's V8 Falcon round to, you know, things like mine.
You had some problems yesterday. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, just a bit. We went out in qualifying, and 2 laps in, just starting to get the car going, tyres getting warm, and the driver's side front's shock absorber decided to snap, which then very kindly put me into the tyre barrier. Relatively low speed, but still the initial impact broke the bumper, headlight, wing. Just a bit of a rush to get it all ready. We drove about 40 miles away to a guy who didn't know me but knew a couple of the classic VW guys, and he very kindly practically stripped his Civic Type R down there and then for me.
So Ian, you're with the pre-2003 Volkswagen series. You've got your local sponsor CBT down this weekend. How are they finding the weekend?
They're having a good weekend actually. Stuart and the guys down here. They got their car out this weekend with us. They're enjoying it. They had a few problems yesterday in qualifying, but they've got on top of that. Yesterday was a good race for everybody really, good clean racing. We had a rolling start with the Classic Thunders, which all went really well for our guys. We prefer standing starts, but because we were mixed in with the Classic Thunder grid, we had to do a rolling start. That all went well. Everybody survived. Good racing at the front. We had Steve Wood come first, Ken Lark came second. I managed a third overall, which was the best result of the year for me so far, which is really good. But no, really good atmosphere in the paddock this weekend. Really good guys out here.
Now, normally you'd have a dad that was racing and the son would get involved through him, but it's been the other way around for these two. So Andrew Jr. started racing a couple of years ago, and Andrew Sr. has come along this year. Sure. So guys, tell us a little bit about your cars and what you're racing.
Well, we're both Hondas. I run a Honda tuning business, so obviously we have to go down that route. I race an Accord Type R, which is highly modified. It's quite fast. But at the moment it's been very unreliable. We're having every single meet we're having some kind of issue. This meeting we went out, we qualified third, got up to second in the first race, and then the engine mount failed and pretty much fell out of it. So that's this weekend. But we do have a kind of a backup car, which is father's little CRX, which is a lot less powerful but just as much fun. And it just means we can have a good weekend no matter what, so there's always some kind of backup plan.
People might be watching this programme thinking, oh, I'm too old to go racing. What do you say to that?
Get your kit on, lad, get out there, have a bit of fun, buy a new car, just get out there and do it, because it is so, as Andrew said, it is so much fun.
Classic Thunder time once again, the pre-2003 production touring cars and the pre-2003 VWs. Andy Robinson on pole, he won race number 1. Vaughan Fletcher is alongside them, Bradley Goldman and Stuart Day. Stephen Wood, top VW in race 1, Ken Lark alongside. Then it's Luke Allen in the Honda Civic Type R and Ross Craig, they're heading up the pre-2003 production touring cars. Steve Barden next from Ian Froggatt. Alex Owen is 11th with Vic Hope 12th. Then it's Dawn Boyd, Marcus Reynolds alongside her, then Neil Wade and Ian Fowler on row 8. Row 9 of the grid sees Tim Mole and Neville Moore. Then it's Nick Sanderson, Gary Johnson alongside, making it all say at row 10. Andy Smith in the Honda, Darren Bly, Dale Gent followed by Ian O'Gorman. And the grid is completed, 25th position by Chris Adams in his VR6 VW Golf. So rolling start for our second race of the day. And away we go. Looks like Vaughan Fletcher has made a good start. Here's the view from Ross Craig, who is being passed in his Honda Civic Type R. Very crowded down into riches for the first time. Ian Froggatt on the outside. There is Alex Owen in 1, 2, 3. And here's the view from Steve Barden. Ken Lark immediately in front in the silver Corrado, and you can see the yellow VW Steve Wood just in the distance, but Tim Mole getting stuck in with Neil Wade at the moment. There is the 348 of Tim Mole. Luke Allen enjoying his race as well. Remember, class winner from race number 1, the pre-2003, runs in Class B within that championship. And through Agostini they go. Alexander Owen chasing. You can see the massive crowd that we've got here watching, not only from the banks on the infield, but also down at Coram Corner and the bum hole. It's a superb venue to come and watch. There is Nick Sanderson in 373, having a lonely time bit at the moment and hoping for better fortune than he had towards the end of race number 1. So 192, Luke Allen at the head of this gaggle. We go in car with Steve Barden. All of these guys, remember, running in the pre-2003 production touring car championship, and that is going through from the back of the grid is Dale Gent, who sorted his problems out And Dale Gent's going through. Steve Barden looks on the inside line as well, but Dale Gent's on an absolute mission. We would expect, of course, the Hammerite Classic Thunder runners, if starting at the back of the grid, to work their way through. And certainly at the moment Dale Gent is doing that. Here we go in car with Ken Lark running second in the VWs. The yellow car, 2 cars ahead of him, is leading the class, so Ken second in class at the moment. Dale Gent breezes past him, and he's going to have the next VW in his sights in a minute. Goes along the straight. There in the number 7 car, Steve Watson in the Mark II Sirocco. Steve running in Class C in the VWs, but we go in car again with Steve Barden coming into Palmer corner. Oh, getting it all sideways is Luke Allen, but that was very good car control for Luke. Could have been a lot worse, but the momentum scrubbed off, and we'll see whether Steve Barden can go through. He did get more momentum going down the straight and goes through. There is Stuart Day, who finished in 4th position in race number 1. Looks like he's having a good one at the moment. Steve Barden is repassed. Superb racing between Barden and Luke Allen. Wonderful racing in the pre-2003 Production Touring Car Championship. Now there's Tim Mole going through, and a good gaggle of cars. Again, showing the variety of machines that we've got. So Vaughan Fletcher comes through, and Dale Gent has closed up in fine style on the front runners. So Vaughan Fletcher running second at the moment. Dale Gent's come right the way through the field. He's going to have a fair piece of work to do to try and catch Andy Robinson. Dale's got the fastest lap of the race and improving on those lap by lap, and it was the car led dead. There's the race leader, Andy Robinson in the Falcon, looking to make it a double. Comes into Agostini. Are we going to see a change for second? I don't think that's too far away, to be perfectly honest, as the race leader goes on. Here comes Dale Gent through on the inside. So the exit of Agostini corner heading up towards Hamilton, and Dale Gent from the very back of the grid has come right the way through in the Hammerite Classic Thunder class. As we look at 131 going around the outside, that's Gareth Broadbent, the lone Fiesta in the pre-2003s, getting stuck in there with Ian Fowler in the Mark III Golf. And here's Tim Mole, who's got a bird's eye view of that battle, and you can see Gareth having a look at the outside line, switches back. Let's see whether Gareth can get past. Now this is, of course, he's in a separate series, as it were, so it's 2003 touring car dicing with pre-2003 VW, a gaggle of VWs behind, with the Honda at the back as well. This is a really good scrap between these two, and Broadbent, I think he's going to hang on to it. Ian Fowler still looking for a way through. Try and check up on the positions between those guys. Here we go with Tim Mole again, watching that battle out front. Gareth Broadbent running just inside the top 20. Broadbent seems to have got that one sewn up for the moment as they head off down the Wellington Straight once again, although Ian Fowler will try and close up once again. So here's Steve Barden still racing hard and goes through on the inside line. Very good stuff by Barden, who goes through and past Luke Allen once again. Superb racing. Now, we've talking about superb racing, and a great drive so far from Dale Gent. Now, remember, in qualifying, Gent had the pace. He was 2 seconds faster than Andy Robinson, and he's driven superbly through the field. Lights ablaze. Probably doesn't need those on so much now because he's got Andy in front of him. The Falcon clearly is going to be more of a handful through the twists and turns here at Snetterton, and we'll see what Dale Gent can do, because he's opening it up along centre straight. He's going to tee him up for a move down the inside into Riches. Andy Robinson knows he's there, and I think knows it's a matter of time. Goes through on the inside line. Dale Gent from the back of the grid, a terrific drive through a very crowded circuit in the opening laps, and goes through a very well prepared machine, very well driven machine in this race as well. Ian O'Gorman there in the 151, taking over from Allen in today's racing. Meanwhile, look at this battle that we've got here. Ian Fowler and Gareth Broadbent. We'll join them again after the break. Welcome back to Snetterton, the Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloon part of the race, led by Dale Gent. And he's got a good margin at the moment. You can see he's built up 8 or 9 seconds over Andy Robinson. So Gent, by the look of it, is going to have a win and a DNF to his credit this weekend. It was an exciting drive through the field, the early stages of the race. Meanwhile, here are the boys that we were looking at. Ian Fowler still being chased by Gareth Broadbent. They've had an absolutely superb scrap race long. Round the outside goes Ian O'Gorman of the CRX. So 73 is Stuart Day, running second in class, Stuart, so enjoying his race. And side by side at the moment with 44, is a tag between the two, and Day and Froggatt both spin and are going to lose time. Froggatt, I think, had the quicker recovery of the two. Meanwhile, we've got Vic Hope still in the mix, and Vic passed by Chris Adams. But out front, Dale Gent coming into Murray's for the last time is going to take the win. Fastest lap again in this one. Pole position, a DNF sounding race number 1, but it's been a super drive for the big crowd here at Snetterton to enjoy. The Hammerite Classic Thunder Saloons are won by Dale Gent. Andy Robinson second from Vaughan Fletcher. Bradley Gelman is fourth from Ian Froggatt, who recovered, as too did Stuart Day. Neil Wade in 7th, and 8th place goes to Marcus Reynolds. In the pre-2003 class, Alex Owen won it from Steve Barden, Ross Craig and Luke Allen 4th, Vic Hope was 5th, and then Dawn Boyd. Gareth Broadbent was next up ahead of Ian O'Gorman, and 9th position going to Andy Smith. In the VW, Steve Wood makes it 2 out of 2 from Ken Lark, Chris Adams in 3rd from Tim Mole, then Neville Moore, Nick Sanderson and Steve Watson. Non-finishes for Ian Fowler, sadly, and Gary Johnson. Let's join Jack Rawls in Victory Lane, who talks to race winner Dale Gent.
So Dale, you had some problems yesterday, but you've come back fighting today and got the win.
Yeah, I'll say pole yesterday was my first pole of the season. I'm absolutely chuffed with that. The problems we've had through this season with the car, the silly little problems, forcing me out of a race and not even making races. But yeah, well chuffed with the pole, and then took away, got the lead, pulled a very good gap out, which I could see in that, and then I see Darren in the skyline come in, and I kept looking. I said, "Is that Darren or is that Andy?" I weren't too sure, and then thought I turned the power back up a little bit to pull a bit more of a gap, and then intercooler pipe burst. No power. I thought it blew up at first.
So Andy, yesterday you got quite a result and just sort of found yourself in the lead and kept your head down and kept going, but you weren't quite as fortunate today, were you?
Well, I knew that. We're discussing this last night, and I knew there was the Subaru was starting last, but I knew how, it's a spaceship, that it's not a car, and I just knew he'd be coming through, so I just got my head down for the first few laps, and then I just saw him coming, and to be honest, when he was alongside us, he was just gone. There was no point.
AJ, straight out of the car, class win, well done.
Yeah, unbelievable. I didn't expect it, to be honest. Obviously, the dampers are on the car, we didn't know anything about them. Went out on a warm-up lap and warming up the tyres, and I thought, it's real good feel to the turning of the car. And I thought, okay, just took it steady, and then managed to get on the back of the little Honda train that was going on, which was really good. And Luke he hit a curb and he bounced up and he was on the grass, and Steve got him, and it was a real good dice, and I just thought, all right, sit there and wait, because there'll be an opportunity. And I think we went round the outside of one into the hairpin, and that hairpin up to the left hand, or we went round the outside of Luke. Just unbelievable.
But Steve, you got a result yesterday and you've got another result today. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a little bit easier today. Yesterday I had to come from the back, and it was a bit of a struggle getting through the traffic, although the competitors were brilliant. They didn't do anything dangerous. But today was nice. I just had to get the start good. I knew Ken had new tyres on the front, so I had to make a break early, and it's paid off. I managed to manage that gap.
So Anthony, you've got a Wolseley which was a 1500, now an 1800. So how did you come to acquire the car, and tell us a bit of history about it?
Started a few years ago when Stuart next door was going to have a go, so I decided to jump in with him, and I found the car, bought the car, and I built it into a race car. It was just a standard road car when I got it, half finished. It was sprayed, but I've just built it from out of a box basically.
And why Wolseley? Is it a childhood thing or what was it?
It was just available.
And I know a couple of boys have come from MGBs. Are you the same as well? Have you raced anything?
No, I used to own an MGB, and years ago I did drag racing.
So Steve, you're in your 1963 Ford Anglia. How did that come about then?
Just came along to some races with a friend, got into it, and Tony, who's got the black Wolseley there, said, I will build you a car if you can find something. So we found it on eBay, and it went from there.
And a lot of cars this weekend have already had quite a bit of track time, but you've been struggling for that, haven't you?
Yeah, I went out yesterday and we had a bit of a gearbox problem, as we thought, so we changed the gearbox, and then that wasn't the problem, so we took the gearbox out again, we've put a clutch in it, and the clutch solved it.
Now, you're out in your 1973 Camaro. You used to race it in the pre-74s. You're out in the pre-83 now, though, aren't you?
Yeah, that's correct. They amalgamated the two series because we couldn't get enough entries, but hopefully next year they may split it again.
And what attracted you to come to the Classic Touring Car Racing Club then?
Well, the series I was running with finally packed up. Modified production saloons, and their rules are very similar, so I trotted along to them.
Al Wayman starts on row 6 of the grid for the pre-83s and pre-66s. David Howard, race 1 winner on pole, then Stephen Primmett, Andrew Harrison and William Jenkins on row 2. Mark Osborne in the dolly, hopefully the smoke cured now, then Pete Winston 6th, Reardon Welby 7th, and John Wright in the red and gold Ford Escort lines up in 8th place. Mark Fowler next, then Tony Crudgington, Al Wayman, the man we just heard from, Effian Jones is next, then Tony Preston and Andy Messon. They're the lead 3 pre-66 runners. Malcolm Jeffs is next, then Stuart Kai in his Ford Capri. 17th on the grid is Steve Watson, then Richard Leggett in the Alpha, Gary Fletcher in the Hillman Imp, followed by Tim Dodwell, Anthony Warnes in the Wolseley, and Stuart Radford in the Triumph, followed by Paul Cooper and Simon Jeffs. 24th on the grid. 25th is Alan Greenhout in the Forenza. Keith Peter Wright, hopefully we'll have the Morris Minor fired up again, and David Hall in his Forenza, completing a spectacular looking grid. David Howard on pole, and stalling it is William Jenkins. This could be very nasty indeed. The marshals were very quick to get the yellows. In car with Andrew Sheraton shows how tight it was. Thankfully, William Jenkins has got the BMW fired up. But this is the last sort of, you don't want to see a stalled car and a smash up anywhere, but particularly not in classic racing. So we're thankful that there was no damage, but problems sadly for Gary Fletcher, the Saffron Walden base driver's Hillman Imp being pushed away. So an early bath for him, very sadly. But look at the very wide line from Andy Messam. There's the Camaro Z28 of Al Wayman chasing hard. Reardon Welby in the Rover up ahead then, but it's a battle between the two Jaguars coming down into Agostini for the first time. And David Howard, the leader again, the dolly is getting into the mix and round the outside. Superb driving from Mark Osborne, challenging for second place. He's going to have the outside line again for Hamilton unless he's managed to make up enough ground to just chop across. Reardon Welby up and dicing with the Alfa Romeo. Number 15, the number 16 car of Malcolm Jeffs. So the Rover gets away. Then we've got the number 5 Austin Mini 7 coming under pressure from the Jerry Marshall lookalike of David Hall. And David going to the outside line here. David Hall's made some very rapid progress from the back of the field and already up in towards the top 10. Look at the Camaro though, starts to kick in now. Al Wayman harnessing those horses down the straight. Meanwhile, the battle for third on between Mark Osborne and Stephen Primmett once again. Primmett, very good result in race 2, taking second position, but down behind the dolly at the moment. Peter Winston up ahead of Mark Fowler in the Ford Capri, immediately behind these guys. But the two Jaguars really will want to a big sideways moment off on the grass for Steve Barber, who rejoins by Keith Peter Wright. Good to see Keith back in the race. And nice to see the angle box running around here. As I say, a superb variety of cars. And really well thought out merging of the classes as well by the organisers here. So there's the Wolseley of Anthony Warnes. Keith Peter Wright trying to close him down in the Morris Minor. And then recovering is Steve Barber, Sheffield-based driver in the first choice Van Sales Ford Anglia. Another of the Triumphs going through, Stuart Radford in the yellow Triumph 2000. And sadly, it looks like Steve Barber is going to be the first casualty of the race. We've got some smoke coming from the Chevrolet Camaro. That is a sad sight indeed. But going through, making very good progress, is William Jenkins. This is not what we wanted to see. Al Wayman pulls it up, sadly into retirement. Well, we'll just have to wait for another day to see that glorious car on circuit again. So Anthony Warnes, Keith Peter Wright and then Stuart Radford all engaged in battle. David Howard's got a good respectable advantage at the moment over Andrew Harrison, with Mark Osborne in third in the Dolomite. Steve Primmett runs in fourth place, and we go in car with the second place Jaguar XJS. What a handful it is. What a great shot. Oh, Bourne, the back wants to come around. He's on the grass. Please keep it out of the barriers. Well, thankfully he does, back onto the tarmac eventually behind Stephen Primmett. Andrew Harrison down into fourth place with all the work to do, but that just goes to show how much effort is going into driving that magnificent car. Reardon Welby all over the back of John Wright. Oh, look how close they get going into Riches. Wright's on the outside line. Coming up as well, William Jenkins on a very good recovery drive. Primmett and Osborne side by side for second place. Andrew Harrison's going to go through on the inside of Primmett on the run up towards Hamilton, the left-hander. Join us for more action after the break. Hi, welcome back to Snetterton. You join Andrew Harrison in his quest for third position. Stephen Primmett to the outside. And they're still side by side. Primmett would very dearly love to hang on the outside line, but watch the Jaguar horses kick in now down the back straight. Meanwhile, three-way scrap here between, this is for seventh place. John Wright holds seventh at the moment. Then we've got Reardon Welby in the Rover, followed by the BMW of the recovering William Jenkins. And great to see back on track Gary Fletcher. We saw him being pushed away, and the fans being treated to seeing the imp running round, which is really good. He's away down the back of the field at the moment, looking for someone to dice with, but great to see him getting some race action. So let's see what the BMW can do. Heading towards Corham, so the closing stages of the lap, and surely the power of the BMW would be used to best effect down the main straight here. So we'll see what happens. Closing up into Murray's, the Rover's closing up on the Escort as well. We'll see whether Jenkins, yeah, he's kicking in, moves offline, powers past the Rover. BMW goes up into 8th place. Will he do 7th by the end of the straight? Tucks back in, looking at the inside line. And we'll see how that one develops as we go back to Andy Messam from Malcolm Jeffs in the Alpha, Richard Leggett in his Alpha as well, the 99 car. And here's the view from 16, looking at Andy Messam up front. So the battle of the Alphas. Oh, and off circuit there went the Lotus Cortina of Effian Jones. So Effian's had a moment, so it's not going to be a great result for him there. They've got the angle box parked up by the marshal's post opposite the start-finish line. And meanwhile, here's the scrap for second place. So it's Mark Osborne second at the moment, but on the back straight, one gets the feeling down the Bentley straight that Andrew Harrison will reclaim second, which he does. Pete Winston up ahead now of Stephen Primmett once again. So Winston's closed in on that battle, and you can see the number 19 car running well in fourth place. David Howard is away down the road again. Winston and Primmett very much engaged in battle. Primmett looking to the outside line. Meanwhile, Mark Osborne trying to close in on the Jaguar. Let's see whether he can do what he did in race number 1 and make that outside line. He wasn't close enough, so the Jaguar will again extend the advantage along centre straight and to complete another lap. Winston getting away from Primmett at the moment. But David Howard at the head of the field has been untroubled. He's driven superbly in the XJ12. As off the circuit goes the Mini of Andy Messam, who's dropping back. That means that Tony Preston is going to take the win if he stays on in the Morris Minor. So the Minor's going to take the class win. Effian Jones nursing his car around the last lap. Peter Winston still ahead of Steve Primmett coming into Agostini. Mark Osborne's going to get a podium by the look of it in the Dolomite. We've still got a fair chunk of lap to go here. So back to the battle between Escort and Rover. The Rover's got ahead now, and you can see that Gary Fletcher is in front of them as Stephen Primmett closes in on Pete Winston. This is for 4th place on the road. Primmett goes along the Bentley Straight. Is he going to tee up for a pass, maybe going down into the Brundle Nelson complex? There is the race leader though, David Howard, lights ablaze through the bomb hole for the last time and passing the Mini of Andy Messam, who is still running in second position in the pre-1966 class. Here's the second place man, Andrew Harrison, but David Howard is going to make it 2 out of 2. A Jaguar 1-2 this time, no Ford Escort in the sandwich. So there is Harrison, but there's the win for David Howard. Andrew Harrison takes second, in car with him across the line to take the flag, Mark Osborne, and we just saw Stephen Primmett there ahead of Pete Winston across the line. So it's Howard, Harrison, Osborne, Primmett, Winstone from Fowler, William Jenkins, Reardon Welby ahead of John Wright, then David Hall in 10th place in the Forenza, Malcolm Jeffs from Simon Jeffs, and Richard Leggett, Stephen Watson in 14th. In the pre-1966 class, a win for Tony Preston in the Minor. The Mini of Andy Messam next up from another Minor. Keith Wright from the back of the field, then Stuart Radford. Gary Fletcher gets a 5th place finish in the Hillman Imp. Effian Jones comes home in 6th position. Some cracking racing from the pre-83s and the pre-1996 cars.
So yeah, 102, yeah, good, yeah, fine. I think I was more fired up today, to be honest with you, and I had an early night, and I thought this could be very dodgy with Mark and Andrew and Steve. I'm not sure what happened to Steve, but I broke away, and it's just trying to keep it in and scare yourself until you're getting quite scared and thinking, well, will I get round here? And you think, I've got to keep this on, because Andrew is there, even down the straights, weren't you, Andrew? Crikey. And then Mark was in front, I don't know, then Andrew took a bit of autocross, wasn't it?
That's the one, yeah, we thought so. Well, the grass wasn't quite flat enough at that corner, you see, so I thought I'd trim it for them on the way through. Yeah. I was driving like a hooligan and dropped it, it happens, so dropped back behind then Mark and Steve, and they make it a devil's own job to get through, but ultimately here straight line speed is going to win out, providing you don't bin it at the next bend. Unfortunately, we stayed together today, so...
Absolutely, you mentioned straight line speed. I mean, you got 2 Jags here with quite a lump up front. Mark, in your Triumph Dolomite, I suppose that was quite a drive to stay with them.
Yeah, well, we fortunately got a bit of less weight and we can handle a bit better, so we got it a bit more on the corners and the braking, so we gain a bit there, but obviously when it comes to the big straights, we just can't keep up then.
Tony, I know you're a bit happy because you've been racing a while and this is your first win.
My first ever race win, yeah, a few seconds and quite a few thirds, but never a win, so I'm chuffed to bits, yeah.
Now I'm surprised because the Mitre, it was looking really quick all weekend. I'm surprised you haven't won a race already.
The trouble is it's not really got the power to win races, it's a class winning car. So, I've just gradually pushed it further and further and further, and yeah.
So Andy, you had a good result yesterday and another good result today with 3 wheels on your wagon. Tell us a bit about that.
Bit lucky that was, because I got boxed in. The start was, I don't know what went on at the start. This car's 2 stalls in front, so it's down the grass on the outside. Thinking, cool, going back to grass track here. And then once I eventually got past the little Alpha, because he's not really in the same race, but I'm quite a bit quicker, but hey-ho. And then gaining on Tony quite rapidly, thinking I'm making work for this win. And coming through the first bit of the wiggly bits at the back, tyre went off the rim.
So Keith, that's your first podium. You're pretty happy, aren't you?
I'm really happy. I'm quite amazed, really, but I'm amazed, and happy. Obviously, very happy. Yeah. The old car held together well today. Yesterday, I had a bit of a silliness with it because I forgot to plug my alternator leads back in when I put the engine back. So anyway, I borrowed an alternator off of Tony, the winner, and put it all together this morning, and it's gone. It held together well, and it was good fun. It was real good fun.
we've been seeing all ages of people racing, from Michael over there to yourself, and there's even more older than you, I suppose. But
no, I think I win the prize for that one. Yeah, only by 6 months, but yeah, there's a few old veterans out here.
And you've been racing since the 60s, so it's no new thing for you. And you chose this championship. Why?
Yeah, 1968 in a Ford Anglia, and that was my first ever event. And I just went along to sort of try it and see what happened. And I was bitten by the bug then, and I've spent an absolute fortune ever since. Well, yeah, I just love motorsport and racing.
So Jeff, you're racing a Ford Puma. Now, it's a very cheap and affordable series. Tell some people that maybe don't know about it what it's all about.
Right, well, basically the championship was set up a couple of years ago to enable people to come out racing on a budget, and basically the cars pretty much stock cars. There's a limited amount of modifications you can do to them, and at the end of the day it's sort of just to encourage people out. So it's a great way of getting into racing.
Sometimes a car that's a bit more affordable isn't as competitive, but you've actually just won the pre-2005 championship, haven't you?
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing with the regulations. The cars actually are very competitive because you can't do a great deal to them. So what you're actually finding is that there's actually a lot of cars grouped together, and because of that it makes for some great racing, some really close racing, and therefore the championship's really, really good fun to take part in.
I know that you can pick a car up pretty cheap, so someone might be watching this thinking they'll never be able to afford racing. Then how do they get started?
Right, well basically I bought this as a road car for £450. It had a year's MOT on it, and basically you need to buy all the safety gear, roll cage, seats, harness and the like. So really you can get out for anywhere between sort of £1,500 and £2,000. So it's actually a really affordable championship to compete in.
So back to our pre-93s, pre-2005s and the Blue Oval Saloon Series with Burton Power. Ollie Allen starts on pole with Ashley Shelswell alongside, then Simon Ward and John Edwards-Parton. Kenny Coleman's next, then Malcolm Wise, Andrew Sheraton and Nigel Hutton on the fourth row of the grid. Row 5 sees Gary Parks alongside Alistair Rushford, then Brian Long and Paul Waterhouse. Kenneth Adlard 13th with Scott Parks, then Jeffrey Windsor and Damon Craig making it an all Ford Puma row 8. Row 9 of the grid, Craig Langley and Alan Willett in the Fiesta, Mark Finney and Mark Hope in his Renault 5 Turbo, Maximilian Futrell in the Proton. Then it's Andrew Anderson-Smith in the Honda CRX, Marcus Lambert and Lindsay Hutton in 24th on the grid, and Chris Baker, non-finished race number 1. Let's hope that he's out on grid, and we wish him well for race number 2, which is about to get underway. The red lights are on. Here's our camera from the start. Simon Ward makes a great start, but what's happened to Ollie Allen? Ollie Allen looks like he's stalled on the grid. Now, has he got away? Yes, he has. There he is in the 17 car. But it's Ashley Shelswell that leads from Simon Ward in second position. Alistair Rushforth being chased by Paul Waterhouse and Brian Long on the inside line. We've got Scott Parks in the mix as well. Always crowded as they come around the hairpin at Montreal for the first time. Paul Waterhouse on the outside line of Brian Long. Rushforth is in the mix as well. But Ashley Shelswell, is he going to take a win here? Ollie Allen is going to have something to say with it. We're in car with Simon Ward. There's Oliver Allen, recovering very well indeed. So Allen goes through. How much further can he go? Join us after the break to see. Welcome back to Snetterton, the pre-93 touring cars, the pre-2005s and the Burton Power Blue Oval Saloon Series. And this group of cars, led by Ken Adlard in the Alfa Romeo, coming under pressure from Brian Long. Brian really piling the pressure. Alistair Rushforth coming up as well. Brian Long goes into the back of the Alfa, which is off the circuit, and bang into the barrier. Not what we wanted to see at all. What a sad end to Kenneth Adlard's race and indeed meeting. Maximilian Futrell up ahead of 58 Mark Finney. Pre-2005 Satria, pre-93 Vauxhall Astra. These guys up towards the sharp end of things. The blue Fiesta of John Edwards-Parton. The white Sapphire Cosworth of Nigel Hutton, and the orange Ford Capri V8 of Kenny Coleman, who's having a very good look as they went into Corham Corner. Now coming through Murray's, drops back a little bit does the Capri, so some work to do. glorious looking car, absolutely superb, and all the way down the field in all of our classes that have been racing this weekend, superbly presented cars, and I can tell you generated a heck of a lot of interest throughout the paddock as we look at Chris Baker just ahead there of Mark Hope in the Renault 5 Turbo, and then Alan Willett in the Fiesta, and Willett being passed by the red Puma of Jeffrey Windsor. Damon Craig up ahead of him at the moment in the battle of the two Pumas, and there is Mark Finney now chasing Craig Langley. Langley in the pre-2005s, Finney in the pre-93s. Might see a flash of the green Puma going through. Yes, there it is. Got a fair bit of distance at the moment over Jeffrey Windsor. The two of them very evenly matched in race number 1. Alan Willett continues his chase. Meanwhile, we've got the battle on for lead position, and it's Ashley Shelswell who made a little mistake there coming out of the Montreal hairpin. That allows Ollie Allen to look on the outside line into Palmer Corner. Now, he made a pass here in race number 1 on 2 occasions on the inside, but this time he's on the outside line, left of shot as we look at it, and Ollie Allen isn't going to back off. He's going to try and maintain the outside line. Lifts the inside rear wheel, he's still hanging on to it, he's got the grip, he'll find an inside corner eventually, an inside line I should say, and he's got through. Ollie Allen takes the overall lead, Ashley Shelswell down to second position. Wonderful piece of overtaking. Again, you won't see too many people going for the outside line and making it stick at Agostini, but you can see it here in the multi-class racing. Wonderful stuff from the Classic Touring Car Racing Club. Superb action. Ollie Allen, but if he gets the win, we can say he's very definitely earned it once again. As we go back to Alan Willett going through shot, then Craig Langley followed by Maximilian Futrell in the Proton. So many different marques represented at this meeting, so it's a real festival of car racing here at Snetterton, and please feel free to join us at our future dates this year, and check out the website as well, and come and see us and support us next year as our race calendar will be announced, I'm sure, over the winter. But Crossland looks to me like Ashley Shelswell is dropping away. I hope he hasn't got a problem. We've got a black and orange flag going out. Ollie Allen has in fact now lost the lead again and sliding all over the place. So it's Ashley Shelswell. This is a repeat of race 1. Shelswell back in front and Ollie Allen down into second position. Here comes Shelswell. There is Allen in second place, a massive gap back to third position. Meanwhile, Chris Baker making progress, and up with Brian Long, goes through on the inside. Baker, remember, non-finished in race 1, so climbing his way through the order. Brian Long finished in 11th position in race 1, so Baker's come through up into the top 10. But here's John Edwards Parton, 71 Simon Ward. Simon running well, the winner of the pre-93 touring car section of race 1, heading the field here as well. So Fiesta from Astra as we head down and see Marcus Lambert in the Peugeot 206, the Sheffield-based driver. John Edwards Parton still hanging on from Simon Ward. Kenny Coleman trying to get on terms with Nigel Hutton at the minute. The Puma battle's livening up again, isn't it? And Damon Craig is being caught here. He's got stuck into the battle with Maximilian Futrell with the Proton Satria, and he's got Jeffrey Windsor behind him as well. But meanwhile, back to the scrap between John Edwards Parton, Simon Ward and Kenny Coleman down the inside of Nigel Hutton to go through. Kenny Coleman finally makes the pass, and it's going to stick as they go into Coram, taking a wide line. So Ashley Shelswell still out front in this one from Ollie Allen in second. The Puma battle's going on again, and Damon Craig's been caught by Jeffrey Windsor. As a gap between the pair of them earlier on in the race, and Windsor here has had a very good run. Meanwhile, we go back to Proton versus Renault 5, so the Renault 5 there at the moment. The Renault 5 running in 11th place. Maximilian Futrell will go on to his last lap now. The race leaders are on their last laps. in the Proton. Look at that, side by side, and at the moment it's the green car of Damon Craig who heads up Jeffrey Windsor in the battle of the two Ford Pumas. You heard the interview with Jack saying how cost effective it is to come in and race that type of car, and great racing provided by them as well. Here is Alistair Rushforth running second in the pre-2005 cars behind Gary Parks. Parks is in the Peugeot. Quick look at Brian Long, 8th position outright at the moment for Brian in the number 3 Fiesta. And Brian crosses the line now. But meanwhile, we've got a problem. There is a big problem for the race leader, Ashley Shelswell. Now, was there contact? Shelswell pulls it up, and that's going to hand the lead back to Ollie Allen. So Shelswell retires. You can see Chris Baker's retired as well once again, and Ollie Allen is the man on his way and in the lead of this race. So a last lap retirement for Shelswell, but Ollie Allen is the race leader now, 5 seconds ahead. The blue Fiesta of John Edwards Parton is running now in second place. The waved yellows are there. Ollie Allen comes through the bomb hole for the last time and heads down towards Coram. He's going to inherit the win. And he's very clear, as we said, 5 seconds clear of John Edwards Parton. Simon Ward is in third place overall and winning the pre-93 touring cars. Kenny Coleman's fourth from Nigel Hutton, then Gary Parks winning the pre-2005s. But Ollie Allen is going to make it a double against the odds. We didn't think this was going to happen with the way the last lap started. And it's Allen coming down centre straight and will take the checkered flag to make it 2 out of 2 in our Autoglim Classic Festival. John Edwards Parton, you can see there in second place. Hard lines for Ashley Shelswell. Here's the result of the Burton Blue Oval Series. Ollie Allen from John Edwards Parton. Kenny Coleman in the Capri takes third from Nigel Hutton in the Sapphire. Brian Long in the Fiesta next from Scott Parks, Alan Willett and Lindsay Hutton in 8th place, 2 non-finishers. And then in the pre-2005s, Gary Parks takes it from Alistair Rushforth and Paul Waterhouse. Maximilian Future in the Proton is 4th. Then Damon Craig and Jeffrey Windsor. Craig Langley from Marcus Lambert in 8th. Simon Ward winning the pre-93s ahead of Mark Hope and Mark Finney. Andrew Anderson-Smith in the CRX and Malcolm Wise in 14th.
So Ollie, you shook your head at me at the start. I mean, what was happening there?
Unbelievable. As soon as I pulled on the grid, my clutch failed. I had clutch failure. I pulled off on the warm-up lap, and it made an horrible noise. I think the release bearings dropped to bits. But when I looked at you, I shook my head and I thought, I didn't think I was going to pull away even. Managed to get away. It managed to bite. I think the pressure release bearing stuck in the flow in the pressure plate. Got going, managed to be able to change gear, and then 2 or 3 laps into the race, I lost 5th gear down the back straight. So I was having to hold it at 8,500 off the throttle, so I didn't damage the engine. And then a drive shaft come out. So I had 1 drive shaft, 1 gear missing, and I don't know how I got home, honestly, and I didn't realise I'd even won until I got back. Unbelievable.
Well done, John, a good race. Tell us what it was like from your point of view.
It was very fast and very furious. I lifted the shift light up a couple of hundred RPM. That just gave me that little advantage, and I could see Ollie in front, and I thought, oh, I'm second.
Another race and another 3rd place. I bet you're happy, aren't you?
Yeah, really chuffed with that, mate. It was a good start, and then John in the Fiesta sort of caught me up and got by me. Then we had a really good scrap. We had a little bit of contact, but nothing too dramatic. And then obviously Ashley had gone off in front, so we ended up 2nd and 3rd. So it's a good result for John, good result for me. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So 6th overall and 1st in class. That's a good result, isn't it, really?
Yeah, really pleased with it. Improvement on yesterday. The car was going really well. Got a good start, so just got my head down again and went away.
I've spoken to the other two boys as well about going off on oil, and I mean, you did as well.
Oh yeah, it was at the last minute you see the oil flag, and by that time you're a passenger. So straight across the grass, join the back onto the track, and then just keep an eye on where second place is.
So that's it from Snetterton, the Classic Touring Car Racing Club. There's been some great racing, fantastic battles, and the camaraderie on and off the grid has been amazing. Thank you for joining us here at Snetterton. We'll see you next time.